G'day crew, welcome to Go Fantasy. It's the Monday Rage Trade edition. Nice to have your company on the podcast. It's brought to you by checkmyrate.au. Visit the website, it's free to use. Take control of your financial future, and Brandon and the team will help you get a better home loan rate. So I'm coming to you from Adelaide, made the trek over to South Australia today for Gather Round. Just looking out at the beautiful Adelaide Oval, all its glory. The bridge going over, it's going to be full of footy fans over the next few days. Can't wait for that. So Monday Rage Trades, but coming to you Tuesday after Easter Monday fixture and being in the car all day, not conducive to doing podcasts. But I did want to get something out because, again, we've got a forced trade and it's just a remarkable situation, is it? So when you add Tim English to this list, Goulden, Rosie, Petrarca, Tristan Sherry, now Tim English. You know, guys have had Jordan Dawson miss out. There's just been Nick Dacos. There's been carnage right across the start of the season. We're all feeling it at the moment, but it does mean, again, we're going to have to have a conversation about Ruckman, which is one that we already had last week. But I think the majority of people wouldn't have traded into English. So if you're an English starter and you need to trade him this week, he's out with an MCL strain, likely going to be 3 weeks. I don't think this is a hold situation. So do you have Max Gawn? I guess if you've got the money to get to him, that makes sense. That's the logical play. Do you have McAndrew at R3? Can you roll with him as a starting ruck for a little bit longer? There's two options that are absolutely on the table for you. Grundy, you're chasing off a massive score against West Coast, which he was always going to drop on Matt Flynn. The Swans have got the Suns in what's going to be a really good game this weekend. And, Jared Witts traditionally is a bit harder to score against, although Max Gawn put, a monster score on him over the weekend. But Gawn just seems to be built different this season. He's come in with a point to prove. So let's see what you can make work with your trades here. But obviously Tim English is a trade out if you've got him, unfortunately. So Luke Jackson is probably the only other ruck that you'd consider. I think he's been sitting in my utility spot for the majority of the season. And I think he's having a really good year and he's scoring well, but he's not dropping those monster games like Grundy and Gawn. So I think it's probably going to be we're reaching to the top, aren't we? I guess that's what I'm trying to say. But Jackson's having a decent year, that's for sure. And then there's lots of good players coming off their bye. So at GWS, you've got the two defenders in Lockie Whitfield and Lockie Ash. So do you feel like you want to trade up in that area? That's a place that you could certainly use your cash if you've got some laying around. And then Finn Callahan's the other one. So there's interesting stats going around about opportunities to score. And Finn Callahan's right near the top of that list, getting lots of handball receives, lots of CBA. So in terms of a guy who's having a great year to date and has points available to him, particularly in Supercoach where he's a superstar player, I think Finn Callahan is worth considering. And then the Saints defenders coming off the bye, so Sinclair and Nasai Wang and then Miller would be a bit more of a risk just because we haven't seen the ceiling so far this season. Sinclair has been ultra consistent. He's been excellent. So he's an option for us there. And then from the rookie perspective, we were let down badly by Jack Watkins over the weekend, who scored 7 in Supercoach. If you'd spent up to get him in to try and ride this cash gen, I think that's probably over, which is unfortunate. But it looks like Jacob Farrow is going to be pretty reliable for us. And, the Bombers, the way that they played, particularly the second half against the Western Bulldogs, suggests that we're going to see a lot of that chipping around in the back line, as we've seen from Brad Scott's Bombers over the years. And this sort of felt like a way for them to not get flogged and sort of have the game on their terms. Everyone scored well in the Bombers' defence. So I think Farrow is going to be a really nice one. I think that, if you've got Blackiston, that move down to him makes a lot of sense. And there's other rookie defenders who are making us a bit of money, but you could potentially sacrifice, or you can go sideways from Zach Ostelski if he's still sitting there, and you can do some DPP. So there's ways to get Farrow in. He's also a midfielder as well, so it could even be a Watkins move if you're keen to get out of that. And then Lockie Goulden scored so well coming in for just his second game of AFL. It's a bit of a watch in terms of the role, and of course Petrarca needs to come back. It was a bit strange seeing Rowell and Anderson get such low scores and Goulden do quite well. So I think we'll need to wait for that one to shake down next week. But let's see, because we'd love a forward who can score us some points, because Doveston and Lombard have not been good for us. Hopefully Marshall's back this week. So there's a bit of food for thought for you. Someone that I've targeted this week, and I wish I just had done it at the start of the season, because I was a big believer in this guy across both formats, and that's Cozzy Pickett. When I've done my trades and moved things around in Supercoach, it's Pickett that I've loved the look of bringing into the forward line, getting rid of a failed mid-pricer in Jordan De Goey, and upgrading there to Cozzy makes that forward line look pretty strong with Flanders down to F3. I think it's a bit harder to do too much in fantasy this week if you've got Tim English, and I think English trade and then Farrow is kind of the move if you don't have Farrow in your team yet. So yeah, bit of work to do after our rage trades. Hopefully you've got rid of Parrish. Windsor's probably in the gun this week. There's some others that have let us down. I've got Caldwell in fantasy that's been horrible, but I've decided I'm not going to sideways trade premiums when there's money to be made elsewhere. Hopefully the points will come and those premiums will start to actually perform. So great to check in with you on Goat Fantasy. Nice to be back in the swing of it this week. We'll have a big round from Gather Rounds, and enjoy this week. Be in touch soon.